Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NBA center Ryan Hollins.
Couple bump fakes, leans in, shot blocked by Ryan Hollins. Hollins sent that into the third row.
6 rebounds and 8 assists.
Hollins climbs the stairs.
Down the floor. Ryan Hollins! He is the high jumper!
That's what I want to see. Give me some gunpowder and throw the hammer down.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Rick Bucher.
Rick Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Hollins, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network.
My bad. I don't know how this stupid audio was on. My bad, bro.
I'm Rick Bucher. You can hear me on FS1. You can see me. No, you can see me on FS1. You can read me on Bleacher Report. And you can follow me on Twitter at Rick Bucher and on Instagram at Rick_Bucher. He's Ryan Hollins. And you can see him ESPN, bunch of places. You can follow him on Twitter at the Ryan Hollins and on Instagram simply at Ryan Hollins. And it never ceases. I think last podcast you recorded naked.
I wasn't naked, Rick.
No. It was 2 podcasts ago. You were, well, as far as I could tell. And then you were bare chested. Let's put it that way. It was hot. It was hot in the valley.
It was very hot, bro. It was very hot.
And then the following podcast, you were, what was it? You were eating some sort of pasta dish. And then this one we're about to record, and you start chomping on an apple.
You had to do that to mess with you. You had to do that. I knew you'd get a kick out of that.
I did indeed. So anyway, and then we have, I don't know what it was. What do you're, for those of you who've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that Ryan likes to multitask. Just talking to me is not enough to hold his attention. He's got to have something else going on. What were you, there we go.
I don't know how my audio keeps popping on my phone, man. Like my audio keeps popping up, man. It's like sports science on Lonzo Ball, man.
Unbelievable. Oh, you know what? We need to get into that. Why don't we start there? You saw the video, right?
I didn't get to see it in full. I just saw what he said.
You saw a clip. Did you see a clip?
I saw parts of it. I didn't really dive into. I saw like parts of it.
All right, basically, they were having a conversation. For those who don't know, Lavar Ball, Lonzo Ball.
Sorry,
dude, turn your phone off at this point. You don't get to use your phone. You don't get to use your phone during the show.
I'm trying to look it up, man. I'm trying to look it up.
So, in any event, LeVar Ball, Lonzo Ball, there was a clip. I don't know. I think it's on their Facebook show. I don't know what the clip was for. I assume it was for that. And they're talking about the Big Baller brand, which, if you heard Lonzo on, I think it was Jason Hart's podcast, was talking about how bad they were, how he'd have to change them out at halftime. Josh Hart. Sorry, Did I say Jason?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, previous NBA player, but not the one in question with the podcast. Josh Hart's podcast, and teammate now with the Pelicans, teammate also with the Lakers, and he was saying about how he had to switch them out, how they were trash. It was, I mean, he just killed the brand. If the brand weren't dead already, Lonzo stuck a fork in it. And this was a conversation about LeVar suggesting that the brand's not dead, and almost flipped it around and said, "Hey, Lonzo, you're damaged goods. You're number 2 pick who's been traded, and everybody's telling you that, but your dad can't tell you that because Lonzo really wasn't having it. It was a passive aggressive kind of thing, but he wasn't really hearing it. And people were like, well, what's wrong with that? LeVar was just spitting the truth. I mean, everything that he said about Lonzo is true. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, but you're broadcasting it. Like, if I'm giving my kid the truth, that's one thing. But if I'm giving my kid the truth and I'm advertising it to the world, that's an entirely different thing when it comes to parenting. And I understand, for those of you who are out there who are parents, or you're like, hey, raise your own kids, don't deal with somebody else. You're right. Because we're all making it up as we go along. I had to go through more hoops to bring home my dog than I had to bring home my kids from the hospital. They wanted to come visit my house to make sure that it was a dog-friendly house. Nobody ever checked. Nobody ever said, we're going to come over to make sure the crib is right and you're feeding the kid right. I mean, there is that distinction. And being a parent, look, we all fail. We all make mistakes. But since Lavar has put his parenting out there on the street and in the public,
true.
To me, I feel it's like it's fair game. And in this case, I don't have a problem with Lavar. And Lavar said, I made this brand, the 3-baller brand. I made it for you guys. I made this whole idea was for you guys. And while I believe that he's used it to create his own platform, I think there's truth in that. And I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with him being real with Lonzo. What I have a problem with is you want to do all that and you're making a TV show out of it. That I have a problem with. And that takes it from parenting to exploiting your relationship with your kids.
No, you're right. I agree. It was a lot. And, I wish I could make a method out of the madness of Lavar. Other than that, he finds a way to scratch and claw and kind of stay relevant and stay in the news and stay in the media. I just think of all the acts. He just knows. He's always known how to push a button that makes everybody run and go. He likes to get all the way up to the edge. I mean, I haven't heard him curse.
He's gone over it a couple times.
He's gone over it. Oh, he has. I haven't heard him curse, though. I haven't heard him, he's essentially, you can say, pretty harmless. Obnoxious, yes, but pretty harmless. He's not a criminal. This guy's not a felon.
No, he doesn't go that far.
Yeah. So just saying in general.
Hired a criminal to run 3-baller brand.
Definitely hired a criminal to run
big baller brand, but yeah.
Escape with a couple million. Yeah. So I'm torn between I know what Lonzo's capable of and let me motivate him, or, you got in your feelings because Big Baller Brand was always about you. And he told you the truth about your vision, and everybody's salty because the money and how upside down that thing went. Right. And he just thought he was this guru, and it was some reality. So the Lonzo's damaged goods. Either Lavar got in his feelings, he's completely wrong, or he's pulling this daddy move where, hey, like, I'm gonna motivate him because I know what he's about. And you would have to imagine that he hadn't coddled his sons. See, he's very unrealistic with us, to say the least, when he talks about his boys. Right. But you imagine after those games hearing a Lavar speech, you not running hard enough, or you not pushing the ball, or you not getting up enough shots, or you not winning.
Yeah, well, and look, they're all in their way. They're all, even LiAngelo is an accomplished player. I mean, if you're a collegiate caliber player, borderline pro player, that's an accomplishment. And he's done that with all 3 of his kids. So he's doing something right as far as the basketball training is concerned. You're a number 2 pick. You're playing in the NBA. You don't get there just on physical gifts alone. There has to be a development of your game. So I give him that. I just, when it comes to this, Lonzo, seeing Lonzo give the pushback and Lonzo talk about the big baller brand, and Lavar was basically saying, Lonzo said, whoever, I forget the guy's name who heisted them and is now, like, Lonzo was suggesting the brand died with that dude. And Lavar's like, he wasn't the brand. Like, we still have the brand. And I'm thinking, yeah, you still have the brand, but that's damaged goods. What's crazy though? On the low, LaMelo has a bigger name than Lonzo. And I know Lonzo's big, but right now LaMelo's kind of like, he's got like all the little teeny boppers. Like he is like the bat, and and honestly, like he's $1 million whether he plays in the NBA or not, Rick. I get that. But it's, and I think you're right. I do think you're right, but I think that's essentially because he hasn't had to face the test yet. It's all,
he may never have to. That's the thing. He's pulling in type of money. He may never have to play. And it could just be he should have made they're hating on him. Like he represents a lot more money. Like it's crazy.
If he plays his entire career in Australia, he doesn't make the money that Lonzo's already made in the NBA.
No. He'll never. Well, it will be endorsements.
I don't think playing in Australia, he's going to become a US or global sensation.
Let me find a reason to pull out my phone.
Here he goes.
No. So we're going to look at followers, and we're going to look at Lonzo Ball. So Lonzo's at 6.9 million. And
yes?
6.9 million.
What?
Yeah, bro. And Melo Ball, 4.9 million. Okay, so there's some catching up to do. But nonetheless.
That's still that's pretty impressive considering the one has been in the NBA for, 2 years now? And the other one? They're
succeeding. They're doing it, but 4.9 million viewers in today's climate, in followers, like he's golden.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
He's golden.
I'll give you that's pretty good.
He's golden. That's why I said even if he doesn't play a day in the NBA, his endorsement wise, the kid's money.
We'll see. At some point, you have to make the grade, and then we'll see where he stacks up. I mean, it's the same with Zion. Zion was making a ton, but he couldn't go next level if he'd never been drafted and never played in the NBA. You can only be a YouTube sensation for so long. In basketball.
I have friends that make a living off it now.
Yes, but you'd not basketball. No, but not like who?
No, my guy Bone Collector. There's an N1 circuit tour. Like there are guys that go out and play. There's NBA impersonators. There's like. Social media, you need to open up your eyes, and it's created a whole nother market of basketball that LaMelo flirts with. Obviously, we know you because your brother played for the Lakers,
right?
But now it's cool to watch you at the Drew League, to watch you, driving around in a new car. They just love this guy's lifestyle, and in a sense, he's almost more relatable. Rick, he's much more relatable.
There's making a living, and there's making a good living. There's being a millionaire off of being a social media darling, for lack of a better phrase. But I'm just talking about next level. I don't know that you get into the 10 figures, the 9-10 figures, if you're just social media. I need to see that. I don't think that.
I mean, I can't rule it out because they all work as an entity. So let's say it's TV money. Now, TV money's talking something different. Right. Let's say, obviously, Lavar is very intelligent, knows that Facebook deal is going to need a re-up. And it's a little harder to re-up when you're in New Orleans rather than Los Angeles. So
for sure,
he's going to find a way. He's going to find a way. And I'm not ruling it out on if Rick, just the popular, like, dude, ask your son. Your son's like a basketball nerd too. Like he knows everything. For sure. Like he's definitely not into any of that. But like the average kid is like, no, like LaMelo's the man. Like I don't think you understand. Like LaMelo is like. Well, Kyrie Irving, KD, LeBron, and LaMelo.
No,
bro.
I hear that because I got guys that are like trying to tell me that D'Angelo Russell is like the next coming. Like I got D'Angelo Russell all wrong, and I'm like, come on, easy, slow. All right. The other thing I want to get into, two other things I want to get into, the new anti-tampering rules, but I also want to get into Team USA. Now, the last time we spoke, we were already talking about how they were going to build the team for the Olympics next summer. You were saying LeBron is 99% in and is going to recruit guys. I'm saying it's 1% in that LeBron is going to play. And as it turns out, I don't know that he's going to need to recruit guys because Damian Lillard and Steph Curry are already saying that they are going to play. Now, here's the question I have is, do you automatically put them on the roster? And I know you'll still have a tryout, but tryout in air quotes. Or do you respect the guys who played this summer and say, okay, if somebody bows out, somebody doesn't want to play, somebody gets hurt, we got a spot for the new guys. But it's really the guys that put in the time this summer, it's their option to play next summer. Or do you say, screw it, no favors, we're going to put the best team together that we possibly can for next summer? Because I'll tell you where I stand. I respect the guys who put in the time this summer, and I really respect. You may laugh at this. You may think I'm overselling this. The most impressive win I have ever seen from Team USA was beating Poland in this meaningless, for what? I don't even know what it was. 6th, 7th, wherever it was. Because it was the greatest opportunity to mail it in. They'd already failed in what we expect. And they said, we're not going out that way. They went down 26. They went down like by 25 points against Serbia. They end up losing that by 5. Had no reason to play. And they come out and they beat Poland 87-74. Just in terms of my pride in what they showed, I have the utmost respect for these guys that they went out and they still played hard in that meaningless game that nobody in the country cared about. And they said, screw it. We're still going to go out and play hard. We're going to try to win this game. And they did. Hats off to them. And if these guys want to play next summer, I'm riding with them because they showed me what the national team should really be about, which is playing for each other and playing for pride.
You're one tough customer, man. You're selling this thing.
I knew you weren't going to go with me on this.
Thing.
I knew you weren't going to go with me on this. And you know what surprises me? I'll give you a chance because I'm assuming you're not going with me. I would think that you would be right there with me because I'm talking about guys like you who did put in the time, who did put in the effort, who weren't given any favors, who had to earn every single thing. I would think that you would be the guy that say, yeah, honor the dudes that are willing to put in the time, even if they're not the most talented, even if they're not the chosen. Because that's what I feel like, in large part, this team is.
I'll give you perspective, though. There are veterans who put in a lot more work than these guys who just sacrificed this last summer and took advantage of the opportunity as they should have. LeBron has sacrificed several summers in USA basketball. Mm-hmm. Paul George went out and risked his career. Mm-hmm. This wasn't James Harden's first cup of tea coming out in the summertime and making a sacrifice. And when I say it's a sacrifice, it's a sacrifice. Mm-hmm. So I will give those guys the open slots if there are open slots. No question there because of what they did.
Okay.
But I don't want to negate that LeBron ain't been doing this since he was, a certain age, or Steph Curry hadn't done it. With these guys see a bigger priority. And it also comes down to how they went about the process. Did they turn their nose up at USA basketball, or did you put in the proper call to Sean Ford and those guys over there and say, hey, man, I've really got to kind of hang with the team this year. We have to get right. I can't risk it. There's too much on the line. How did you go about that process? We, the media, only hear that these guys turned down the invitation. We don't get the details of it. So all of that comes into play. But I do believe in honoring those guys, and there's more ways to do it. I think you have to have a pecking order of who gets the slot and kind of what the needs are. If it's a point guard, I'm going to throw in Kemba. If it's a wing, I would say Jason Tatum. If it's a big man, I like Turner. So it depends also what's available or what the needs are. There aren't a lot of big guys. So Miles Turner may be golden to come back.
Sure. No.
That's just never know.
Yeah, no, that's the tricky part as I see it with this team is, in particular when it comes to Steph and when it comes to Damian, because the upgrades that I need, they would be upgrades. They'd be upgrades at the point guard position. But am I going to take Marcus Smart played through injury trying to play for this team? Am I going to take him off? Am I going to say you don't get to play for gold? He made the sacrifice and then some for this team. I'm not giving up his spot. I'm not taking away his spot if he wants to play. Kemba Walker, am I taking away his spot? Derek White worked his way up from the select team onto this team. Am I taking his spot? The guys that weren't able to play and contribute in large part because of the way the game is played and the way I think we're best at playing it, were guys like Brook Lopez and Mason Plumlee. They just played limited minutes. Miles Turner was really the most utilized big, and I would imagine that Kyle Kuzma would have gotten a lot of minutes. I mean, Brooke and Mason may have played even less with if Kuz had been on the roster. So do you say, okay, Damian, Steph, you can come on and we're just going to play super small as Pop did at times to good effect? Or are you going to trade it out? Are you going to trade out the bigs? You're going to stay with the bigs? There's a lot of questions to be answered. I just look at it, and I don't care who it is. And even if it's Brooke Lopez and Mason Plumlee, I'm not immediately taking them off this roster because they were willing to do the yeoman's work at a time where nobody cared, and they played to the very end. And I'm going to honor that, and I'm going to respect that.
As they should, but I don't agree with that, Rick. And there's a pecking order, and like I said, it depends on how the guys decline the offer. And we don't necessarily know in full how that went down. Yeah.
Well, and I go back to what Jerry Colangelo, the director of Team USA, told me, I think it was in Vegas, that they were going young, and they were going young because they were going to be playing back-to-back summers, and they intended to stay with the team that they selected this summer. Now, I don't think they expected to finish as far down as they did. They thought they'd be contending for gold at the very least.
Well, they hope to. But, I mean, in all reality, like what you just said, if this is a team that came out and won gold, this is a different conversation.
Yep,
now,
for sure.
I'm glad you get an A for effort, but USA is going for gold. So he can talk all that talk that he wants.
Right.
But ultimately, they're not going to be back, a lot of those guys, because you have to win. You have to win.
Well, the other part, I actually disagree with that in terms of you have to win. Because there was a time where I understood that. Because this was a marketing arm to the world for the NBA. But there was like 59 NBA players in this tournament. And obviously, only 12 of them on Team USA. So you're advertising when Spain wins and Marc Gasol has a NBA championship and a World Cup championship. That's still flashing the NBA. That's still marketing the NBA. Ricky Rubio being the MVP is still, in fact, in some ways, is almost greater because we look at Ricky Rubio and we're like, he's a nice player at this stage, but he's not an all-star. But he's MVP of the World Cup. That really adds some shine to the Phoenix Suns' new point guard. So I don't see it as necessary that if Team USA doesn't win gold, before it was, oh, that's a bad look for the NBA. I just don't think that connection is made anymore. And so why not, and I made this argument on a previous podcast, why not utilize it as we're utilizing it, which is Derek White gets to grow. Miles Turner gets to grow. You get these young players who now come back to the NBA and are going to be different players as a result. Why not do that? Because I don't know, but the way I get it, fans are kind of bored with the gold anyway. We win the gold, they're like, oh, good, okay, great.
You think fans are bored with gold?
No, shit, I do.
Olympic gold?
I don't.
You're bugging, bro.
I don't look.
Olympic gold?
I don't think they look at Olympic gold and go, yeah, we won Olympic gold. I think it's okay. We do what fans look at.
Fans look at players. Fans want to see their players. Unfortunately, Ryan Hollins is gonna, I agree with you. I'm gonna relate to Derek White a lot more, but fans want to see LeBron. Fans want to see Steph. They want to see those guys. And, for us, it's the work that you put in the NBA.
Which fans? U.S. basketball fans?
Common fans.
I don't know. I don't get the sense. This is what everybody wants to play the Patriot card and players who don't play for the national team aren't being patriotic. What about the people who said they don't care about this national team because it didn't have LeBron, because it didn't have Steph, because it didn't have the stars? Is that patriotism? Are you being patriotic by saying, well, it has to have the stars. It can't have the stripes. It has to have the stars for me to want to pay attention and support this team that has Team USA on it. I'm only going to support it if it has the right names on the back. Are you really? You're being patriotic? I mean, it seems a little hypocritical, doesn't it?
I'm not patriotic at all. I'm looking at the basketball, Rick.
Okay. Well, this is not directed at you. This is more directed at what, I heard media members.
This is not a gold medal team, bro. Like, stop talking like they came out and won gold. Like, with all due respect, I respect the work that they put in, the sacrifice to the summer. But this is not a team that won gold. We're having a different conversation.
But here's the thing.
We don't give out A's for efforts.
In the Olympics, we do. In the Olympics, when we look at our athletes and when they perform.
Are you seriously telling me like no one cares about a gold medal?
I'm telling you that the value of the gold for us has been devalued because we assume that it's our rightful thing.
It is.
And the only time.
It is.
No, it is not.
Oh my gosh.
What do you mean it's our rightful thing?
It is in basketball. Maybe soccer, we got to catch up. Maybe, a couple of the sports, bro. Maybe track and field, we got to get in the mix, okay? But basketball is ours.
No,
you know what? When you're dominant in something, you own it. You own it. When you have it like your thing, you take advantage of your thing. If it's the USA, they are going to take advantage of basketball. They're going to make sure that they win in basketball, Rick. I cannot give you a pass on that because that's our thing.
Yeah,
that's our thing, bro.
Who won the championship this year in the NBA? What was that team? Who were they? Was the Toronto Raptors? Wait a minute.
Yeah, they're an affiliate.
That's not even.
It's an American.
That's not even in the United States.
Not a Canadian league. It's not a Canadian league.
A Canadian team won the championship.
That was not a Canadian
Marc
league.
Gasol and Serge Ibaka.
And where do they play? We're not playing in the Spanish league, which does not compare, which I played in. You're not serious right now. You're just trolling right now, bro.
What I'm saying is that the NBA has become global. The game of basketball is now viewed as global. And this nationalism of USA, and I mean, look, we've adopted, our game has changed and adapted the European style. We don't even play straight American basketball anymore, traditional American basketball. It's become more of a global style. We've adopted so much of it. It's become a mix. It's a mutt now. It's not some branding that is American basketball. That's where I look. Do we want to win gold? Absolutely. Is it great to win gold? Yes, but like your assumption, like if the gold is ours, it's a little bit like Brazil thinking the gold in World Cup soccer is theirs. Yeah, but it's been a heartbeat or two since they've won gold, and they may have that attitude, but they ain't living up to it anymore. And the rest of the world doesn't necessarily look at it like that. I don't think the rest of the world looks at it and says, "Yeah, boy, we're lucky anytime the USA doesn't win it." And I say this even knowing that FIBA still has USA ranked number 1 in their rankings. How crazy is that?
Because the USA ain't even qualified, bro. So, I mean, listen, you're talking about soccer, right?
No, I'm talking about basketball. They're ranked.
Oh, man, we're not paying attention to that. You got LeBron James, Steph Curry. Listen, Rick. I can't believe like you're writing this out. This is like your little rant right now. Like you can't be writing this out like America doesn't deserve it. Like you're not serious, Rick.
What do you mean they don't deserve it?
You're writing out like that. Like the gold medal doesn't mean anything. It's beyond America. Like you're not serious right now.
I'm not going to say it doesn't mean anything, but I'm going to say that the gold medal in basketball is not like us winning the gold medal in other sports where we've had to prove ourselves.
Hey, Rick, like your deal. You're a soccer guy, right?
Yeah, you can.
Like
if
me and you
guy, yeah.
If me and you go and play some pickup soccer, you're gonna
Yeah.
make sure like, hey, like I'm outshine this sucker. Like this is my thing.
Oh,
This is my thing.
I wouldn't.
I'm gonna
have
make
to,
sure you know who I am. You know now we go play basketball. You kind of like, hey, like I'm gonna make sure like, yo, even if it's just a shooting contest, like I'm not a shooter, but I'm gonna outshoot you. Okay, like
well,
that's just the reality.
Yeah, you're gonna try to outshoot me.
I'm going to outshoot you. I'm not gonna lose to an average Joe because this is my thing. The same way we go play soccer, you're gonna make sure you let me know, hey, this is something I've done for years. The USA, when it comes to basketball, that's their thing. Now, this is something else. Hey, man, we're trying to catch up. So to say that it doesn't mean anything, you cannot relinquish rights of what you have.
But here's the thing.
Especially not a major sport like that.
But the reason that we are where we are is that we've stopped looking at the urgency of proving that we are on top. Otherwise, we would have had guys crawling over each other to play on this team this summer. But we didn't. You know why? Because guys take other things into consideration. It doesn't hold the same meaning as an NBA championship. The gold medal in the Olympics doesn't come anywhere close to winning an NBA championship. There's no other league in the world where basketball league where winning that championship in their league is greater than winning a gold medal in basketball.
That's crazy. So they just turned down the Olympics, right?
Who? The NBA players?
Yeah. They just turned down the Olympics, right? They just turned down the Olympics this year?
I guess.
No, they didn't. They didn't turn down the Olympics because it was just the World Championships.
Okay, but I thought this was about proving. I thought this was all about proving that we're the best and proving that we're the best all the time. So now we'll prove the best when it's an Olympic year. But if it's just a World Cup year, it's not that important that we prove that we're the best. Absolutely. So it's selective. We're gonna determine when we choose to show you that we're the best.
Absolutely.
God,
absolutely.
That is so arrogant. It's arrogant.
When you're good, when you decide to show up and play, when you decide to show up, you show up.
Okay.
Everybody knows what time it is. All the time. There are little like FIBA tournaments that go on all the time. You're not gonna send your best. You just don't do it. And every country's not like Marc Gasol's gonna roll out for Spain when it's time for the big dogs to play. Like he's not going to all the little playing tournaments.
He played in the World Cup.
Yeah, he played in the World Cup, but I'm saying there's a million tournaments is what I'm trying to say. He's not always popping out or showing up to play.
Well,
those guys miss some time. They don't do just everything.
The NBA, their NBA season prohibits some of that, but Dirk used to play as much as he possibly could. Yao used to play as much as he possibly could.
That's because he didn't play any defense.
Okay. All right. We have other things to get to, so we'll have opportunity to continue this conversation. The one last thing I wanted to get to is the anti-tampering rules. I haven't looked at them closely because the whole thing to me is a joke. And the one thing that I noticed was that there's a $10 million fine. The fine can be as great as $10 million. This whole thing's hilarious to me. It's hilarious. The league can't function without tampering. And it's a little bit like the NCAA when they decide like who's eligible and who's not eligible. It's like there's so much cheating that goes on. When you decide to put the hammer down on somebody, you're just making an example of them. You just happen to catch somebody. It doesn't mean that you're actually stamping out tampering. And the reality is the NBA would not work. It could not function if you didn't have tampering. And there's no way that you can stop it. Because unless you are going to find players for tampering, unless you're going to find relatives for tampering, unless you're going to find go-betweens who don't necessarily work for NBA teams, you're trying to put your arms around something that you can't control. There's a story. One team was recruiting a player, and in order to make sure that they didn't get into trouble, they were having all the messages go through their son's phone. Because I figured the NBA is not going to look at the kid's phone. But that's how they were communicating, through the kid's phone. That's just an example. There's stuff like that goes on all the time. Are you telling me that when Rich Paul is in the offices and he's got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and they're talking about whatever, and I've been in the offices when these conversations go on, names aren't necessarily even mentioned, but you know who they're talking about, and you know that conversation's going on. You can't. Now, is that tampering? Absolutely, that's tampering. Are you going to fine them? Can you nail somebody to the ball? I can tell you that there are NBA teams right now. There are NBA teams out there right now that are practicing, that have their guys in the gym and they're practicing. And this is supposed to be workout and pickouts. And you've probably been in a couple of these. And the coach is there. And the coach is not just watching from up in the balcony. Coach is out on the floor. Coach may even say something. That's against the rules. It goes on all the time. Are they doing anything about it? No. What are they going to go? They're going to have a monitor at every facility every day? Hell no. So this whole idea that, for me, it's just, look, it's appearances. They want to make the NBA look like it's on the up and up. They want to make the smaller markets, or more important, the fans in the smaller markets, feel like they're not getting the short end of the stick. I got some news for you. Smaller markets, you're always going to get the short end of the stick. You just are. If a guy has the opportunity to play in LA on a really good team versus playing in Oklahoma City on a really good team, guess where he's going to go? He's going to go to LA. That's just going to happen. So take your victories when you can. When you're in Milwaukee and you got a Giannis and he wants to stay, when you got a Dallas and you got a Dirk Nowitzki and he wants to stay, cherish that, because it's the exception, not the rule. When Marc Gasol or Pau Gasol wants to play in Memphis, appreciate that you get to experience that. Don't ask for more. You're already getting more than the average small market deserves. And here's the reality of it. The NBA makes more money and functions better when the teams in the big markets matter. If it's the worst, the lowest rated finals ever, San Antonio and Detroit. And I actually enjoyed that finals, and I thought it was great basketball, and I loved the competition. Went 7 games, back and forth, tough, physical play. It was great. Nobody cared. Nobody watched. Why? Because of the markets. So it's just reality. It's not personal. It's business.
No, man, I agree. I agree, man. You're fired up tonight. I see you're fired up. Nah, as far as the tampering, no, you're right on point. Real minuscule. It's almost impossible to prove. Magic Johnson just
he was
splurged all over it.
You can't go on a night. You can't go on a
TV talk show. Magic, but everybody else has. I don't want to say sense, but like, even if, let's say, there's a chance you could get the maximum fine, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you knew this was the difference between me signing a guy like a Kawhi Leonard. Let's just say, for example, great point. If I get fined $10 million and Kawhi signs because of what I said, it's ultimately worth it.
100%.
It's ultimately worth it, because I'm going to make $1 billion off of how he's going to change my team.
You're right.
So I'm tampering me all day.
Yeah.
I'm tampering all day.
You're right. That is a great point. It's a great point. You can't put the penalty. I mean, I guess if it was like $100 million, you could put the penalty at some number, but $10 million sounds like a lot of money. It ain't stopping anybody. Yeah. And then who ultimately are you going to hit with that? Because the second that you do, they're going to be pulling the card. They're going to be pulling the cover on somebody else. And then you got to go down that rabbit hole. And that's what, to me, that's the thing with the NCAA. Anytime they come down on somebody, I'm like, this is a joke. You're going to punish them when you got 100 other people doing the exact same thing. That's not justice. That's window dressing. That's making it look like you are holding the line, when the reality is you're trying to legislate something that is impossible to legislate. And I'm not saying that you allow illegal stuff to go on, but you have to determine what's really illegal. I mean, this whole idea of tampering is a creation or an idea that the NBA has created. You're not allowed to recruit at a certain time. You're not allowed to have conversations about something at a certain time. That's just a rule that the NBA came up with. Not like it's some legal element, part of the Constitution. It's that they're breaking a real law. No, it's a rule that the NBA created. And it's a silly rule because the league, as I've said, the league wouldn't function if you didn't have these conversations well in advance in order for teams to figure out how they're going to build their teams, who they have a shot at, how are they going to, like, the steps that you have to go through. I mean, it's the reality. You can't start on July 1 and then start talking and figuring out who do you have a shot at getting and who do you who you don't have a shot at getting. You'd have the lopsidedness of the league might actually be worse, because the smaller markets can plumb the interest or find out, are we going to be able to keep our guy or are we not? And if we can't get the big names, then it gives teams like, and this is not a small market, but it's a team that's having to operate like a small market right now, the New York Knicks. They saw they weren't going to get any big guns, so they turned and said, okay, let's make sure we can get some solid guys. Let's put our focus on the guys that we can get. Same for small markets. So,
and I'll say this also to the small markets: step up and trade your young talent for a Paul George. Step up and make those moves, and he'll likely sign back with you. He'll give you an opportunity, and they were willing to let him move forward. I thought they did the Thunder did things the right way. Look in the case of, because they did the things the right way, he stayed, and they just figured it wasn't working out.
Well,
Look in the case also of Charlotte. The whole reason the Supermax was built was to take care of your guys. Mm-hmm. And Charlotte chose not to pay Kemba Walker.
Right.
And Kemba bounces, so they don't even offer him. But the whole reason for the Supermax was for you to be able to keep your own guy.
That's a great point. And they would have been able to keep Kemba if they'd come anywhere close. In fact, they wouldn't have had to give him the max. They just would have had to give him the max years. They wouldn't even have to give him the max number.
Yeah,
he was just looking for 5 years. He would have taken it. So, no, you're absolutely right. And on the other hand, be a San Antonio. Be an OKC. Be the kind of organization that wins consistently and does things the right way. And you're going to be able to, will you be able to keep those stars forever? No, maybe not. But you will be able to keep them for 8-9 years, as they did with KD. You're going to keep them, and Russ. You're going to have that opportunity if you have a homegrown guy and you make things right by him. You're going to have that great opportunity. So there is the possibility for small markets. Are they going to have to work harder? Are they going to have to get lucky and most often draft that talent? Yeah, but it's still possible. All right.
Absolutely.
That does it for this episode of Bucher and Hollins, subsidiary Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. Please check out our other podcast, Get Some by Gary Owen, and the Age Groupies. Lindsay Hyken is the host, and Mike is her co-host, and I apologize that I don't know his last name, but they're both endurance athletes who are also have families and are doing everything else. And that's what's crazy when I think about it. My wife just did a triathlon and trained for it. Kicked ass, by the way, second in her age group.
You're not even the best athlete in the house, huh?
Dude, it's beyond that. At this stage, I might be the worst athlete in the house.
Gosh.
That's how things, that worm has turned, which is why I'm spending more time on the bike. I'm doing all my stretching, surfing.
Oh, man.
But, man, I tell you what.
We're not hitting the soccer field anytime soon. We're not playing no pickup soccer anytime soon, huh?
Dude, I jumped off so I got a truck. I don't know why I didn't have a truck sooner as a guy who surfs, because the truck is just awesome. But I jumped off of the bed of the truck. And I was like, oh, I said, you know what? This is what happens to guys. It's not the jumping up. It's the landing.
It's the landing.
And that is what slows you down. And it's the same thing with like, I can play, I can hoop, I can play soccer. It's what I feel like afterward and the next day, man. That is what has me reluctant on doing it. All right, enough of us. By the way, if you're enjoying the show, please rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and let us know how we're doing. Leave us a note, a message, a comment, good or bad. The stars you give us, good or bad. Screenshot that and then send it to @BucherFriends, and you'll be eligible to win some prizes. All right, in the next podcast, it will be, I don't know whether it's going to be, might be pulling in a guest. It might be another Bucher friendless episode, and the subject du jour is TBD. So look for it early next week. In the meantime, for Ryan and myself, as always, thanks for listening.